Grandma's bread buns are more than just a recipe, they're a staple that defines what home feels like. They're the kind of food that we genuinely look forward to every time we pull into a driveway and walk through the front door. These buns have a real presence, they're not just a side dish, they take center stage on the table, especially during the winter holidays when the house is full of family. And since the frost still hasn't fully left us, I figured now was the perfect time to document the process and share her legendary recipe with you. Welcome to My Grandma Can Cook the Signature Bread Buns. Every great bread begins with a great start, and for us that means the yeast starter. To get that process moving, we begin by warming a cup of water in the microwave. Now, I'm fully aware that this isn't exactly the most traditional or artisanal method you find in a professional bakery. In fact, my girlfriend constantly complains that water tastes weird or wrong after you microwave it, claiming it changes the molecular structure or something equally boring. But today we aren't listening to the critics. Today we do exactly as Grandma says. If she says the microwave is the way to go, then the microwave is what we use. Next up, Grandma carefully cuts open the yeast package and pours the contents into a bowl. She adds the warm water and the sugar, but then she hits a bit of a roadblock. She starts staring at the mixture, genuinely questioning if she should be adding flour. It's really funny how, in her old age, she can occasionally forget simple foundational things like the order of her bread recipe, yet somehow she still manages to remember every single bad thing I did as a kid. She also remembers the name of every one of my ex-girlfriends for whatever reason, which is a talent I think we'd all prefer she didn't have. Thankfully, we have a lifeline. My mum, the true master baker of the family, is only a phone call away. We decide to consult the expert before we ruin the batch. В смысле, моя ты ему брошмана, ли такая?
Да.
3 ложицы. Наливаешь?
3 ложицы, такая.
3 ложицы, да, 3 ложицы.
The funniest part, as soon as my mum answers the question on the other end of the line, Grandma's memory miraculously returns. Suddenly, she knew it all along. With the mystery solved, the flour goes in. Grandma stirs with the determination of someone who has been doing this since before I was born. She's trying to get rid of the flour lumps, but she isn't stressing it. Here's a pro tip, don't worry about leaving a few small clumps. As time goes on and the yeast starts to wake up and activate, these flour clumps will eventually disintegrate on their own. It's a self-correcting system. Once Grandma decides she's officially bored of stirring, which usually takes about 3 minutes, we let the mixture rest. We're looking for about 10 minutes of downtime or until it foams up and looks alive. During the waiting period, we realized we added one more thing to the growing list of things Grandma forgot: the salt. She adds a teaspoon into the mixture and we carry on like nothing happened. Now, the real work begins. The contents of the bowl get dumped into a large oven tray. Grandma prefers the tray over a bowl for mixing because it gives them more territory. The main heap of flour is soon to follow. Next comes the liquid, and this is where you can really make the recipe your own. This is the choose your own adventure part of the bake. You can do what we did and just use water, or if you're feeling fancy, you can fully replace the water with milk. If you want the middle ground, go half and half. Milk is objectively better, it makes the buns softer, gives them a richer taste, and helps the crust brown beautifully. But it also adds some extra calories that not everyone wants. Honestly, the calories are generally worth the payoff. The only reason we went with plain water today isn't because we were on a diet, it's because we totally forgot to buy milk.
Oopsie.
As Grandma proceeds to add all the flour bit by bit while mixing with her bare hands, we hit mistake number who even knows at this point. It turns out Grandma wasn't exactly paying the closest attention when Mum gave her that refresher on the measurements. She added way too much water and suddenly we weren't making dough, we were making soup.
Soup.
To fix a hydration error like that, you have to add way more flour than originally planned. It's not something to lose sleep over, but it's certainly better to avoid it. Thankfully, we had just enough flour left in the house to remedy the situation. And don't worry, all the measurements I've listed for you are already adjusted, so you don't have to repeat our mistakes. At this stage, the dough is finally starting to take a recognizable shape, though not without the constant addition of just a little more flour. If you thought it was going to be smooth sailing from here on out, you would be sadly mistaken. Why? Because we realized we completely forgot to add the eggs earlier. Grandma, unfazed by anything, quickly cracks them into the center of the dough and keeps on working it. I decided to give my mom yet another call for a second consultation, and it turns out that adding 2 eggs wasn't the perfect fix we thought it was. Apparently, we only needed 1 for a batch this size.
Oopsie!
Us? Making a mistake? No. At least we managed to amuse my mum.
Яйце.
Сложихме 2 яйца.
2 яйца, це...
Ами аз казах, че ти каза 1 яйце, тя каза не, тя каза 2 яйца и сложи 2 яйца.
То даже аз съм правила пита, когато едно време вие идвате с прясно млеко и с 5 яйца.
Ма как 5 яйца да питаме? Това да не ти изхваткаме.
Grandma finally deems the dough worthy of leaving the tray. She moves everything to the table and needs a bit longer to develop the gluten. Then the dough goes into a plastic bag to rest for about an hour. After resting, it's soft and pillowy, and that's when she cuts it directly on the table. She does this quite impressively while using the dullest knife in human existence. A blade so blunt, I'm surprised it could cut through air, let alone dough. She splits the mass into 10 equal buns, with each one weighing somewhere between 160 and 170 grams. She kneads each one into the perfect little sphere and neatly arranges them back onto the tray. We then put the whole tray back into a bag and leave it in a warm room for another hour to proof. Once we return to the kitchen, the buns have puffed up beautifully. Grandma begins to brush them over with an egg wash. I haven't included a strict recipe for the egg wash because, frankly, everyone has their own correct way of doing it. Some people prefer only the yolks for a deep gold color, some use the whole egg, others add a splash of water, and my grandma prefers to add a bit of milk when we actually have some. When the egg wash finally runs out and every single bun has been thoroughly coated, it is finally time to bake. They go into a preheated oven at 180 degrees for about 40 minutes or until the tops have turned a gorgeous golden brown. What we usually do with them is eat them while they're still steaming hot. We cut them right down the middle, spread a truly generous amount of butter, and sprinkle on some sharanasol. For those who don't know, that is a traditional Bulgarian blend of herbs and spices consisting of savory, salt, thyme, paprika, and fenugreek leaves. Obviously, you don't have to follow our specific serving suggestions, but I can promise you that no matter how you decide to eat these, you won't be disappointed. And with that, it is time to wrap up yet another video. I always cherish the time I get to spend recording my grandma and seeing the way she handles her kitchen. There's just something deeply mesmerizing and nostalgic about the way she works. I hope you enjoyed watching this process just as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. So, on her behalf, I'm going to thank you all for watching, remind you to like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you in a bit.